Hello and welcome to Wasted Plotential, where we discuss the wasted potential of our favourite plotlines. Tekken Bloodline, surprising absolutely no one, wasn't very good. The OVA is somehow still the best adaptation of the series to date, and I don't care if you disagree. Bloodline had potential as an adaptation of Tekken 3, even if it's somewhat stifled by the lack of adaptation of the first two games to present Jin's descent into darkness as history repeating itself and setting up the parallels between him and Kazuya for Tekken 4. But as fighting game adaptations universally do, it squanders it, dropping character storylines and reducing them to skill sets for the heroes to fight, which is a topic for an adaptive difficulty I'm working on. So let's try and put some of that story back into this here and discuss the broader topic another time. First off, the show needed more episodes. 6 episodes totaling 3 hours isn't enough time to have all the fights and characterization this plot needs. You might say everyone got their story stripped away to focus on Jin, hence no Paul versus his old rival Son, Paul's technical win, the Williams sisters rivalry, Nina's mind control and amnesia, and Jin doesn't even fight Xiaoyu to test his morals. He just fights Leroy, who is basically a stand-in for Eddie because he's too hard to animate, Hwoarang, whose rivalry with Jin is established after they have their first fight in a montage, and then King for some fucking reason. We don't even see all of Jin's victories because he fights what looks to be Fang Wei before he fights Hwoarang, but the show goes right from the Leroy fight to the Hwoarang one for Jin. And Jin already has his devil brand without any explanation, be it a birthmark because they're bringing up the devil gene already, or a brand put on his skin by devil like in the games. Add another couple of episodes. One gives Jin's training more time to breathe, establishing his friendship with Xiaoyu instead of having her pop up already as his friend in a montage, and depicting his fight with Hwoarang, with Heihachi commented on Jin's progress based on his performance. The other extra half hour gives us time to characterize other fighters and depict Jin's skipped fight. It also has one more benefit I'll get into later. A small thing, I wouldn't have June get exploded. I'd have Jin pass out and wake up in the aftermath, leaving her fate ambiguous as in the games, to leave the door open for a potential return as unknown because there's a lot you can do with that. The second big issue is that I don't think Leroy Smith's inclusion and fight with Jin really added much, making one wonder why they bothered to include this non-Tekken 3 fighter at all. I would replace him with Forrest Law. He's another new generation fighter, but without a ton of significance to Jin's story, allowing him to be a low stakes first opponent and maybe have Leroy's injury go to Forrest to explain him not competing in later tournaments if we get another season. Next, the notion of Ling Xiaoyu beating Nina Williams is just unreasonable to me. Not as much as Anna beating Yoshimitsu, granted, but still, Xiaoyu beating Nina is like having Tina Armstrong beat Ayane, or Frost beat Sonya Blade. And Jin doesn't even fight either of them when the result of the matchup between these two specific characters in this story should be a lot more significant to him. Imagine this. Nina beats Xiaoyu and seriously hurts her. The show's Jin is genuinely friends with Xiaoyu, unlike the general indifference he shows towards her in the games. As such, he's pushed to seriously go for Nina when they have a match later on. This pushes Jin deeper into his devil blood and Heihachi's ruthless teachings, which he will need to try and escape later on, be it through fighting Hwoarang, wise words from a seasoned fighter, or words from an injured Xiaoyu. Of course, Heihachi pushes this by explaining Nina's attempts on his and Kazuya's lives previously to reinforce the idea of her being a serious threat that needs to be disposed of. As for Nina, her unnecessary cruelty towards Xiaoyu isn't just because she was annoyed by the literal child, it's because, like in the game, Olga is using her as a puppet to get to Jin. It wants to draw out Jin's fighting spirit and devil powers so it can take them when it defeats him. All of this is explained by Nina after Jin defeats her and frees her from Olga's control. This then leads Jin to realise that Olga was after him that night, not June, making him feel guilty and strengthening the devil within. It also gives Olga more presence between the premiere and finale, which it totally lacks in the actual show. So now this fight, which is one of the longer ones in the show, has actual significance, pushing Jin along his arc and letting Nina have an actual story for once. For one of the most prominent characters in the franchise, the adaptations are very consistent in giving her the shaft. Sometimes literally. Instead of King, I'd place Paul as the final opponent Jin has to fight. He's beaten his own rival whom he once fought to a standstill, so it's time to face the man who did the same with his father. By defeating Paul, Jin is effectively proven his father's equal, and Paul can have a bit of the Tekken 4 depression that's washed away by fighting his old rival's son and feeling like a young man again. The King fight can still happen, just not quite as built up. I'm mainly keeping it because King has the best narrative in the series, and I like Jin letting him have the money after he wins. I just think Paul holds more weight as an opponent for Jin. I'd also not have Olga's presence look like a cataclysmic event here, since it wasn't like that in the first episode, and I generally find the spectacle of the show's version of the Olga fight far less interesting than the low-key game version. When Tekken tries to be epic, it's always terrible. Blood Vengeance's Big Dumb Mokujin Giant, the Titan Comics Big Dumb Angel fight, Tekken 7's Big Dumb Final Battle, and now this. I do like the part where Jin jumps over the so-called god of fighting and it completely loses sight of him like a dumb chump, and the way Heihachi just shoots Jin in front of the other fighters also doesn't work. In the game, it's done in private, allowing allowing Heihachi to maintain his public image. Additionally, having Jin turn against Heihachi before this weakens the moment, because in the game, Jin reaches out to Heihachi after he gets gunned down, thinking his grandfather is still on his side, not suspecting that it was his order. And it's that sense of betrayal that finally awakens Devil Jin for the first time. Here he knows Heihachi is a dick, and him pulling a gun isn't really that unexpected when Jin already knows that Heihachi killed Kazuya and is responsible for Oga's awakening, which is established in the show but not explained. My take is just to have Oga show up as if he were any other fighter, lose to Jin after a tough bout and be taken away by the Tekken Force. Heihachi receives word that Oga is reawoken, so he and Jin rush to investigate and find True Oga standing over the bodies of the Tekken Force. Away from the public, Jin fights and kills True Oga and his body disappears. Heihachi is frustrated by his plan to obtain Oga's blood, which would be explained in my version of course, being foiled, and has Jin killed because he no longer has any use for him, and he's already shown the will to disobey when Heihachi wants him to be ruthless, so he feels it best to cut his losses and claim Oga killed Jin along with the Tekken Force. Devil Jin awakens and escapes. You can have one or two people witness this, maybe Xiao Yu or Hwoarang. And finally, instead of Jin flying off and cutting to credits to end the show that he's never going to get a second season, we instead have an epilogue. The medallion makes its way back to Julia, which is set up in the show but never paid off. Hwoarang maybe has an adaptation of his Tekken 3 ending where he helps Jin evade the Tekken Force. Xiao Yu is back in school and decides to go look for Jin. King gets the money for the orphanage. Small follow-ups with the likes of Nina and Anna are shown. And the last event depicted is Jin in his Tekken 4 coach preparing to face off with Heihachi again in the future, while a news broadcast reports Jin's victory and disappearance. The broadcast is then shown to be viewed by Asuka Kazuma to set her up for a potential future season. And that's how I would improve Tekken Bloodline. When you choose to adapt a specific installment of a series and not just the broader universe like the live action movie did, you have no excuse not to try and make use of the plot points and character beats from that specific installment. Nina's brainwashing can be used to amp up her aggression and in turn amp up Jin's to push him further down the dark path. Hwoarang and Paul are both solid benchmarks of our new lead's progression as he overcomes his equal and his father's equal to prove he's ready to avenge his mother. And don't make the same mistake Tekken so often does of going to such ludicrous extremes in the name of an epic finale. Yes, Tekken is a ludicrous series. It's the only series on Earth where a kangaroo gets cooked by a velociraptor, but Tekken is not epic. It's a story about a woefully dysfunctional family that brings ruin wherever it goes. It's a story about the pursuit of power and its great cost. Despite the designs of Kazuya and Lee, Tekken is not Dragon Ball Z, and it's about damn time the series stopped acting like it was. If you liked this video, why not subscribe and support me on Patreon like these fine people here? If not, then make sure to share it with your enemies so they can suffer along with you. Today's recommended video is Tekken 3 Analysis, The Pursuit of Power and the Qualities of a Good Fighting Game by Gizo Gitai. As I said, Tekken 3's story does have a lot of potential, and this video goes a bit into what that potential is. It's just a shame that the people who made Tekken Bloodline didn't watch this video before they made the show.